Hi, this is Leslie,
And Lynn.
and this is part three of Sheltering In with Leslie and Lynn, where we try to offer you some tips on working and living at home, living and working at home during this period of quarantine or sheltering in.
And what I wanted to share was just a health tip about the importance of drinking water. And for those of you, again, we're trying to establish new routines of health. And so some of you may be used to drinking a lot of water when you're in your car, when you're on your way to work. You might have a water bottle at your desk. But when you're home, you may find it difficult to remember to keep track of how much water you're drinking, if at all. One reason it's important to drink water is our bodies tend to be more thirsty than hungry, but oftentimes we turn to food because we think that we're hungry. So if you get in the habit of drinking more water, and it's supposed to be one half your body weight in ounces of water a day, which the average is about 8 to 10 glasses of water, then you're doing fine. So how do you do that? When I talk to people, they often say, "Oh, I drink a ton of water," but actually they're sipping on the same cup of water all day, so they think they're drinking all day. So here's what I do: get a nice water bottle that has the numbers and ounces on it. That way you can keep track. So what I do in the morning, I will start off with an 8 ounce glass of water as soon as I get up. And I've read recently that you should drink a glass of warm water with lemon in it. But whatever it is you do, start off drinking water as soon as you get up in the morning. That really jumpstarts your body, and it has a lot of health benefits. And then get your water bottle, whatever it looks like, fill it up, and sip on it during the day. And then, of course, see at the beginning, see how many times you need to refill it. And then that will be your way of gauging how much water you've had. How does that sound, Les?
That'll work.
Yeah. One of the things you'll notice that drinking water, a lot of water will do, is it hydrates your skin. And so you'll soon see that your skin starts to look and feel better. And it may seem plumper. It's going to be less dry because it's more hydrated. So there's your health tip from me. Now I will turn it over to Leslie, who is putting on her psychologist hat, and she will share some tips on physiological changes that you may see because of stress.
Yeah, and I start with physiological changes because when we're under stress, um, particularly with something like a major trauma or crisis like this epidemic with COVID-19, then our body responds by activating the fight or flight response. I really want to talk about the psychological impact since a lot of people have been asking me about that. But to me, it only makes sense when you think about everything else that's happening to your body. So when we are as humans are experiencing fear, then our as I said, the fight or flight or freeze response gets activated, and then the brain is releasing all kinds of chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormone cortisol. And when that happens, a number of changes occur. So most of us are familiar with our hearts beating faster, heart rate increasing, but may also experience some digestive problems. So people may have more symptoms of IBS. They might experience nausea, IBS. A poor appetite. So if that's going on
Headaches.
lately, well, I was talking about digestion.
Oh, sorry.
So if that's going on, that could be why. Additionally, you may also experience the headaches, backaches, muscle tension. Um, some people have more skin rashes. Additionally, your pupils may be dilated. And actually, you may not notice the pupils dilating, but you'll experience blurry vision. And so that blurred vision is because your pupils are dilating in response to the activation of the flight or fight response going on in your body. What I thought was interesting was also some people tend to be clumsy and drop things. And I was doing that a couple of weeks ago, just trying to figure out what in the world was going on. And so, again, when our bodies are primed to flee or fight a perceived stressor, obviously we're not always aware of that. But when that happens, more attention is being given to those large muscle groups in case we need to actually run or move. And therefore, lesser muscles like the fine muscles required for fine motor coordination that occurs in your fingers and hands, those are deemed less important. And so this may be why people tend to become clumsier and drop things during this time period. So all of that gets activated. And so as long as you are in the fight or flight mode, things like problem solving, decision making, concentration, rational assessment, those get diminished. So this is why it's important to understand what's going on with your body and also key into what's happening with you psychologically. So some of you may be feeling more frustrated lately. You may experience more signs of irritability, and maybe you can't pinpoint why. You may feel like you're on edge, or maybe you feel irritable. Some people report feeling restless, and they're just not sure why. Or maybe they do know, but it's not always tied to a specific trigger. Sometimes you just wake up in a good mood, and then all of a sudden, after an hour or a few minutes, you can experience any of these symptoms. So these are indicators of anxiety or that you're having a difficult time coping. Sometimes, at least for me, I've noticed that right after watching the news, maybe if I'm watching a local or national update, and then I leave the TV on and they're covering more about what's going on in New York or Washington or the state of Washington or even here in South Carolina. If I watch the news too long, and then I start looking at any type of opinion news, then I start to feel anxious. And even if it's not a matter of watching any other people's opinions, just hearing about what's going on and maybe what's not being done, or maybe hearing about what we don't know, I notice I start feeling a little frustrated, I start getting restless, and then that leads to being a little bit more irritable. And so I recommend that when that happens for you, if you notice that, turn the channel. Turn the channel or do something else. Go for a walk. Listen to some soothing music. Whatever usually calms you down. That's legal, that is. You really want to focus on that. And I say that in jest, but actually there's a lot of truth to that because too many people end up engaging what we call self-medicating with alcohol or illicit drugs. And so this is not the time to do that. This really represents a good opportunity to engage in some healthy practices like Lynne was mentioning, drinking water, going for a walk, exercising. And one of the things I've noticed from working from home more is that if I have back-to-back meetings, and so I'm doing several Zoom calls for about 3 hours or so, I feel sluggish. And this happened the other day, and I thought, okay, I'll just take a nap. But then I decided, well, maybe I'll go for a walk. And so my mom and I went for a 30-minute walk. We only intended to walk for about 20 minutes, but ended up walking 30. And I felt so invigorated when I got back in. So I really do recommend, if you're able, and if you've got a nice place to walk, or if you could drive somewhere and walk, it could really be a wonderful mood booster. So I just wanted to share some of those tips. The other thing I wanted to highlight for you is if you're feeling pretty hopeless and it's really difficult because of the social isolation, or it's difficult for you to find a system of organization that works for you, or maybe you're finding that although people are providing tips for you and trying to encourage you, you're just not able to see any light at the end of the tunnel, you're not able to garner up any feelings of hope or optimism, then I strongly encourage you to check out some of the local mental health centers. You can go online and look up your local mental health center. Most of them have on their webpage what they're doing now to help during this pandemic. Many of them have adopted the telehealth format. And so that is something that's accessible, and I just strongly recommend that you go and reach out for help now. Now is not the time to dig in and try to deal with this by yourself, particularly if you're finding that talking to the people that normally can cheer you up is not working. So look out for the local resources and reach out to them. Help is available, but it's important for you to take that step. It may seem scary, but move past the fear, pick up the phone, let someone know that you need some help and take advantage of that. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you next week.